have a say in our education. In other words, power to the students. Contrary to popular belief, this does not mean rioting and chaos and the guillotine. It is the idea that students should be able to excel using tools that they love and use a lot. I saw a story on ABC News with Diane Sawyer, which I watch religiously, by the way, and it was about kids' media consumption. So I'm going to actually open this up, hoping that the internet's working. Oops. I think I was getting a little feedback off the microphone there. Okay, it looks like, sorry about that, the internet, I would have to type in something, that's okay. Well, I actually wrote down some of the things from that story, and apparently the average kid spends 7.5 hours a day engaged in technology. 7.5 hours a day out of 24. Don't you wish your students spend that much time on education? 7.5 hours would be great. Although it might be going a bit far to expect your students to spend 7 hours on homework, it is possible to fight fire with fire. In other words, use students' existing knowledge and use of technology to think about technology in new ways. So students on average spend only 38 minutes in this survey on good old-fashioned reading every day. 38 minutes. So you and I may find it preposterous that the average student spends only minutes reading as opposed to hours on technology, but how many minutes a day do you spend on technology? If you said 38, then they might find that equally preposterous. Has anyone heard the saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do? Raise your hand. I see a lot of hands up. Well, the most complimentary thing you can do for your students is speak our language or use our tools. That is, find ways to apply technologies that we use every day, like social networking, to education in the form of creations like educational networking. When we have to rack our brains for new applications of familiar technology, then it gives us lots of practice for problem solving in later life. So raise your hand if your school has a filter on internet. I'm seeing a lot of raised hands. So many of those filters are just filtering out specifically websites that you don't want students to access, but some filters only let students access 1 or 2 websites, which I think is not a good idea because tight restrictive filters on school internet provide short-term solutions. Kids will be able to access the internet as much as they want when they get home, and so you need to teach them safe and effective browsing techniques in school. And if you were scared that kids might get run over by crossing the street, do you tell them never ever cross streets? No, you hold their hands when crossing the road first and say, look both ways when you cross the street so that by tomorrow you won't be dead meat. The dead meat bit is my addition. I heard a very interesting story on NPR, which is on in my house 24/7, about kids and internet searches. So they asked kids to find the vice president's birthday, what day it would be on next year. So Dr. Allison Druin, who helped conduct the study, said there were many children who just sat there and watched until they would find the information, as opposed to, hey, couldn't you do a keyword? Nope, this is what I do, I'll find it, don't worry. We had one child swear he was going to find the vice president's birthday next year in the SpongeBob SquarePants website. Somewhere in there, SpongeBob had it. End quote. This reveals a gaping hole when it comes to certain aspects of technology, and this is where you come in. You might think the kids are really great at everything technology, which is in some ways true, but in others, not. It's up to educators like you to empower us and help us make wise decisions when it comes to use of 21st century tools and internet usage, and when you trust us, we will return that trust. So according to an ABC 7 story about kids and social media, better communication is the key. Communication that is teaching kids judgment on how to be media literate. I want to stress judgment on how to be media literate. What does that mean? Well, that means evaluating whether one source is better than another, whether one source might not be so great to use, who owns a web page and whether that affects objectivity, and a plethora of other essential information. For instance, I was watching a speaker, Alan November, talk about the importance of evaluating website content. One website he mentioned is All About Explorers. So, All About Explorers, oops, sorry about that. If I can get it switched over to this computer that has internet on it, let's see, I should be able to open up